Hi there, welcome to Computer Science 20S. This is lesson 2 of the first unit of Liberty Basic. And just a sort of a throwback here to some old school stuff. If you think that Liberty Basic is hard and these computers are slow, I'd like to point out this is what some of us used to start with when we were a lot younger. This is a computer punch card that you may have seen used around the school just as scrap paper. I've got some on my desk if you want to come and have a look at one, but basically to enter a line of code, you would have to actually bubble in. You can see, just make out the letter F there. You would have to take a pencil and you would bubble in that one right there. And then down here, the code for F is, let me see if I can see it. I can't find it, but you would bubble in another number down here, and the combination of those two would give you an F. And so you would go about whatever code you wrote in here would not be read. You would have to actually bubble in all those things and make an entire program out of this deck of cards, walk over to a card reader, punch it in, or scan it in. It would take that file, that program, and it would send it all the way to Winnipeg. It would process it, and then it would send back some output. So if you want to see those cards or whatever, you can come see me. There's a video here. There's a link to it. I'll link a video to it as well on the Schoology site if you want to watch that 3 or 4 minute clip of how we used to do things in the good old days. Anyways, we're going to move on now with lesson 2. This is the if, then, and if statement. Very similar to what you see in Scratch. The statement if simply means the same thing as in English. If, just like a Scratch program, just means if. So if x equals 5, then do something. So it's nothing that you haven't seen before. It's just sort of the syntax or the look that might be different. When might an if be used? Anytime you want to compare anything, really. You're all probably familiar with GST, which is the goods and services tax. It's charged on both parts and labor. For example, a repairman fixes a dryer with a new motor. GST is charged on the new motor and the labor to put it in. PSD, which is charged by the province. Provincial sales tax is a tax that is only charged on items, not labor. So there would be no PSD on the labor, only the new motor. So you could use if in this situation. So in the previous tax problem, both the GST and PSD was charged. Sometimes PSD is not charged. Remember that GST is on goods and services. PSD is only on goods, not labor. So design a code that will ask if PSD is to be charged and then calculate the total price, including taxes. So pretty simple little problem. Here's what the sample should look like, sample run. It's going to ask for the amount of tax to be charged on, so it's a $10 item. Is PSD to be charged? And you answer 1 for yes and 2 for no. And then it calculates the total amount, including the taxes. So if you said yes, the PSD is to be charged, then it multiplies by a certain amount. And if you say no, PSD is not to be charged, then it only multiplies by 5%. So here's the pseudocode. Remember that pseudocode is a way to plan out your program, to sort of think about it ahead of time. And it's highly recommended that you think about your program ahead of time, do some pre-planning, get things down on paper, and you'll find that your coding is much easier to work with. So you need to get the amount, calculate GST amount, that is 5%. Determine if PSD is to be charged or not. And if the answer is yes, then you should calculate the PSD amount. The current PSD amount in Manitoba at the time of this recording is 8%. And then calculate the final amount. That's equal to the amount plus the PSD plus the GST. And then you are, of course, to display it. The general syntax for an if is pretty straightforward. It looks like this: if something, 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 then, and then you notice this indentation here, do something if it's true, and then you end off an if statement with an end if. And here's an example. If PSD equals 1, then PSD tax is equal to the amount times 0.08, end if. And I'd like to make a note here. The statements inside the if should be indented to show that they are inside the statement. This allows you at a glance to see what happens if the condition is true. And so this indentation type of look here is to model this type of thing here in Scratch, sort of brackets whatever you do inside your if. We say this is all inside the if. To do the sort of similar kind of look here in Liberty Basic and any text-based code, it's quite common to do this indentation. And this is not a convention that I use, it's pretty much a worldwide convention to indent inside of things like this. So same idea as Scratch. All right, so maybe you had a chance to try that, maybe you paused the video, and if you didn't, maybe you should just down try it. Here's the answer. So input amount of tax to be charged on, semicolon amount, that is our variable. We're going to get the subtotal before taxes, that's our comment. GST tax is equals the amount times 5%. We always calculate GST on everything. And then we ask, is PSD to be charged? And the answer 1 is yes, 2 is no. And we're going to call that PSD as our variable. And then we just check if PSD equals 1, then our PSD tax is equal to the amount times 0.08. And end if the PSD variable is equal to 0, it doesn't do anything. Then my total amount is equal to my amount plus the GST tax plus the PSD tax, and then I simply print the total amount. Okay, so if you didn't get that little sample one, you should maybe take a moment or so, pause the video, and try and type that in. Okay, here's sample number 2. Suppose we're writing a blackjack program, and you are going to be writing some blackjack games in the near future. And the rule is that if your total is over 21, you bust and lose. So it's a pretty simple little thing. If player total is greater than 21, then print you bust, sorry, you lose. Bankroll equals bankroll minus bet, and we subtract the bet from the bankroll. In Scratch, we would have it look like this. We'd say have to set the minus bet equal to -1 times bet, so we need a new variable called minus bet, and then we would check the player total, check to see if player total is greater than 21. If it is, then you say you bust and change the bankroll by minus bet. So again, notice the indentation here. There will be marks for indentation. That's very important. Also notice that you can put more than one command inside an if statement. So if you want to do that, you can. There is a way you can make it all one line. If you just go, if player total is bigger than 21, then you could print you bust, and you don't need the end if. The end if is technically only needed if you've got more than one statement, but for the most part, it's a pretty good idea to include end if in your if statements. Okay, so here's hand-in assignment. This is hand-in assignment number 2. I've done some renumbering here. Theater wants to have a program to help with ticket sales. Their standard prices are $5 for students and $7 for adults. If there are 5 or more people in a group, they get a 10% discount. So if to check to see if there's 5 or more, you should use a statement like if group size is greater than or equal to 5. These are the variables that I'm recommending that you use: num students, num adults, cost students, cost of adults, group size, discount, and total cost. And here's what your sample run should look like. It should say, hello, welcome to the Parkland Theater. How many student tickets? You type in 3. How many adult tickets? You type in 3. The student cost is $15, 3 times 5. The adult tickets are $21, 3 times 7. There is a discount of $360. 15 plus 21 is $36. The discount is 10%, $360. Why is that? Because there's 6 people. And so the total amount is my 36, 15 plus 21 minus 360 gives me 3240. So that's what your program should do. I'd like you to write some pseudocode for that. If you use apostrophes at the start of the code, you can write your pseudocode right in your program, and eventually that should become your comments. It's a very good habit to get into, is writing pseudocode, writing comments first, and then doing coding. And once you've written the code, then I should get you to test the code and make sure it works. Please make sure you use these variable names. Here's the rubric for that. You get 2 marks for the pseudocode comments, 1 mark for the indent, 1 mark for variable names, 1 mark for matching the sample output, and 2 marks for structure. Keeping in mind you must indent inside the if loop for a total of 7. All right, good luck with that.